So
why don't we do it?
Like you have the Pelicans hat.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really dumb name for a team.
It is. That's why I wear the hat.
I mean, well, why Pelicans?
It's the state bird of Louisiana.
Would they have some? It is.
Yeah.
Huh? I didn't know that. I mean, but why don't they have like other names for sports teams?
Like what?
Like the Vampires. Wouldn't that be cool? It'd be like the Vampire. Oh wait, actually that would kind of backfire if you said like you're the Vampires and said, "Oh, you suck."
What?
Hey everybody, welcome to The Last Shot Show. My name is Matt Brown, this is John Lambert, and we're going to talk about sports because we can and we're bored. We, again, don't really have that many big things to talk about. We could do a speed round about like the Heat being 16-0 and how the Chicago Blackhawks have won or have at least scored a point.
We're not telling these people a lullaby.
Yeah, but we kind of want to tell you stuff that interests us. And that may interest you, and things that are kind of poignant in sports today. So we got 10 minutes on the clock, and the first thing we're going to talk about is the pressure on being number one. Like the pressure of being the top sports icon or the top sports team in a certain series, and what are the pressures on that. So, John, we got 10 minutes, and here we go. So what do you think about being... What do you think about being the top in sports and such?
Well, the reason we bring this up is because of Rory McIlroy. Because he withdrew from the golf tournament. It was the Honda Classic.
Yes.
What I believe it is, or what I heard today.
Because of a toothache.
Yeah, because he claimed it was his impacted wisdom tooth, which he later admitted he just felt the pressure of being number one in the rankings and just having that on his shoulders. And I think there's a lot of pressure in that nowadays in sports. Like you're watching, we talked about college basketball last week. So many number ones have lost and had the court stormings and all that stuff.
Right.
And like I think you have all the pressure being number one until you win the championship. Like look at the Miami Heat. I mean, we don't really want to delve into the 16-game streak, but
no.
They definitely are the best team in the NBA. There's consensus majority on that. Not everyone's going to agree with that, but it's pretty much they are the best team in the NBA, and in probably both of our opinions. Unless you want to defend the Spurs or the Thunder.
I'm not going to defend the Spurs right now because I would on a normal basis, but I'm not going to defend the Spurs on being the number one in the NBA right now because they are hurt and old.
Yeah.
I don't think that they can get past the Thunder. I think it would end up being maybe Spurs Thunder in the final,
Western Conference,
in the Western Conference final, but I don't think
like last year,
like it was last year. But maybe even the Spurs might get beaten by the Nuggets, who have been
or a good young team.
They're a very good young team. You might even throw in the Warriors in there. Well, they're not as good as
if Bogut can go to the doctor.
True, but I think that being the number one in sports is something that everyone wants to acquire and attain to. Like we all strive to be the best. I'm not going to try to quote that Pokemon thing. I want to be the best. Oh, I am going to say it now. I'm going to be the best. I want to be the best that no one ever was. And a lot of people want to try to become the best and do the best at their own job. But there's a lot of pressures in that.
You get the target on your back.
You get the target on your back. For example, Michael Jordan, as we have always defended and always have said that he is one of the, if not the greatest sports icon in our lifetimes.
Definitely in our generation.
In our lifetimes. And so the target was on his back to perform, especially that game in the playoffs when he had the flu.
Yeah, the NBA Finals.
The NBA Finals, that was game 6.
I think that was the clinching game, if I remember. We could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't think it's the clinching game. I think it was... Was it game 6?
It might have been. I don't know.
Because I knew one of the series
I don't
went to
remember,
7.
to be honest.
No,
they never had.
No, they never had.
Bulls never went to 7 in their streaks.
So that means it was either game 5 or game 6.
Yeah, whatever it was, it doesn't matter.
So the target was on his back because the Bulls wanted to win the game at any cost. And so Michael Jordan, although he was like having flu symptoms and definitely
a temperature of like 102 or something like that. Yeah.
And so he still had to perform and become the best. But I think there's there's a different. We could put sports icons in two different categories. You have the sports icons that should be performing at top caliber, and the ones that just don't add up to it.
I think it's a matter of being new to number one and getting used to the idea because, like we say, the Miami Heat are number one now, but when they acquired Chris Bosh and LeBron James, they clammed up in the finals and felt the pressure of having that target on their back, and they didn't quite know what to do with it. Like when LeBron was with the Cavaliers, no one really thought he was going to win the finals by himself with that roster. There were a lot of better teams.
I did.
But he didn't have the pressure on his back to win that championship with the Cavaliers because everyone kind of understood that he didn't because he couldn't carry that horrible roster on his back all the way. I mean, he took him to the finals, got swept by the Spurs. That was the end of that. And yeah, Varejao and Booby Gibson. And it's just that was a bad team except for LeBron. I think when you're new to being number one, it's really tough. The Heat, it was tough on them. It's tough on Rory McIlroy in golf. It's tough on like even Indiana this year in college basketball. They're rebuilding to become the Indiana of the glory days, and they're not used to being that number one team.
I think but when we say
like
it's
Tom Crean, their coach at Marquette, was never really the number one team. He's feeling that pressure for the first time as well. I could be wrong. Maybe Marquette's been ranked number one under him, but.
Again,
I think it's the
freshness.
It's the freshness of it. It's the newness of just everyone wants to be king of the hill.
So I think there's a difference between when you're trying to be number one in a team sport and when you're trying to be number one in an individualized sport. Like golf is an individualized sport. You play by yourself against others, and so when you are number one, you have a bunch of players trying to take the top spot away from you, instead of having a team built around you and saying they could share that load, and you're trying to become the best and to be the best.
But they all feel that pressure regardless.
Everybody feels that pressure. Okay, so I'm gonna throw out that concept that I had earlier about teams that should, or people who should have that number one mentality, and who steps up to the plate and who doesn't step up to the plate. I think that LeBron James is beginning to, if not already has, stepped up to the plate in him being the number one player.
The monkey's off his back. He's got the ring.
So
he's playing
number one.
He's playing with no regard for anything right now. He's just playing. It looks like he's just having fun. Before he won the championship, you could just tell. Look back on this last week. He had the layup against the Magic. Everyone yells at him, especially Skip Bayless on First Take, about LeBron. You got to be a closer. You got to drive to the hole and win the game because nobody can stop you in the paint when you're just forcing yourself down there. You watched him before he won the championship. All he did was take those, fade away, fade back. Where like brick. And the only time it went down was against the Magic in the playoffs, and that was it. LeBron didn't have that clutch gene. He had the pressure. He had the gorilla on his shoulder. Now, you know what? I'm going to drive the hole. If I get fouled, if I miss it, I won a championship. Who cares? You can't really. Even the Miami Heat. There's a reason why they've won 16 in a row. There's no pressure on them in the regular season. None. They get to the playoffs and they're gonna try and dominate.
So what you're saying is, with that whole thing, but for me, it's like, don't you want to step out onto the floor and think that you want to win every game?
But do you believe you can if you haven't won the title?
Okay. When I haven't won the title, I don't.
Because there's always a team that has done it. Like there was the Spurs, Tim Duncan. They walk on the floor like they're going to be the champions.
But where's the I think for me it's like, where does that? There's a fine line where it's like, okay, we've won the time, so we can just coast, and I know what we're doing. And there's a fine line between that and saying, where's the hunger?
I think the Heat are coasting right now, but when playoff time comes, they're going to step it up 100%.
I just hope that when that time comes, that the Heat don't clam up.
I don't think that.
I don't think they necessarily will, but anyway, let me go back to Roy McIlroy real quick for a second. Like, he claimed, like, oh, I had a toothache, but then just realized that he's number one and everyone's gunning for him and everyone's going for that number one spot. I think that there's a level of, you just need to own up to what your position is. And you excelled at this sport, and now you need to accept the role of being number one. If you want to be inside of this, if you want to be the best in this individualized sport, and you are complaining that I can't handle up to the pressure, then I think that you need to reevaluate the way how you play.
I agree.
And just have a sit down with you and whatever. Get that yourself together and say, look, I need to step up to the plate. I like being number one. It's hard, but I love doing it.
I don't think he likes it. I think he's prematurely number one. I think him winning the Masters was more of a fluky thing, like kind of because he was what, 19 years old.
19 when he won the
and and he won the Masters, and I think that was more of a fluke than him. Like kind of like when Trevor Bayne won the Daytona 500, and he was 20 or 21. Is Trevor Bayne dominating NASCAR right now? No. I think they need to grow into the Tiger Woodses and the Michael Jordans and that where they look down on everyone else like, you can't beat me. I'm better than you. And I don't think that they have that right now. Mm-hmm. They're too young for that.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, I agree that with age comes maturity. With maturity comes understanding of the sport, understanding of your own abilities. Because when I see that kind of stuff, Rory McIlroy, to quote Stephen A. Smith, he's no scrub. He is.
He's very
very talented.
But you still use the word potential with him.
He gives me
potential is still on the table.
He gives me that moniker that I can't do this. He gives me that unable, that unsteady feeling.
He's 21.
That he's not.
He's LeBron James in 2004.
I guess you could say that, but in a sense, like we're always looking up to number one, and if you are number one, you need to look down and say, I'm going to protect my spot, and I'm going to just say, you know what, no one else is going to take me. So
I think you got to earn that confidence.
You have to earn that
through titles.
So what do you guys think? What do you think about earning the top spot? Looking up or looking up at number one, or looking down and holding your spot? Tell us what you think. Like, favorite, subscribe to us. Do that thing that you people out there should be doing, but you're not. Share this video with friends.
Watch us.
Watch our show. Coming up, we've got another topic that we're going to talk about, and you'll see it coming up next on The Last Shot Show. We'll see you in a second.